Let's have a look at John's request, Brait. He says on the email, he says, Frans, there's a nice Afrikaans word for what he wants to call the share, but he was very polite. He said, listen, is there maybe a chance for the stock to eventually lift its head? So, but there was a nice sentence as well that made me a little bit worried what he thinks. But if I look at Brait here, I mean, this is one of the losers of the market. And I mean, there's fundamental issues now. A lot of analysts wonder what Mr. Wiese will do to turn the company around. But if I look at this chart, the momentum is still clearly to the down. This is, remember, a weekly chart. It's a line chart on a weekly basis. And the reason why I use a weekly chart here is just I want to take the noise out for the week. I don't want to see this daily moves. What do we see here? We see the low of the stock was around 12 Rand 70, and we're now at 15 Rand 96. Yes, and it's already a nice improvement. But I would like to see two things happen before I believe that maybe something is in the making here. And always remember that a share looks ahead in times, and the share will maybe in 3 months, 4 months time actually look better or worse. Then you will read it in the fundamentals. So a share looks ahead, and there's a lot of informed capital around, and they sometimes know well ahead of times what to do. Now, if we look at the stock here, that low was the first thing. I like the break of this downward trend. It was a downward trend that was clearly shown there. Let's have a look. There's also a falling wedge. That looks also okay to me. Let's zoom it out a little bit. That looks a little bit better. But for me personally, I think there's a line in the sand that we need to look at, and that is this line. I would like to see Brait, before I'm getting excited about the stock, I would like to see this little resistance line turn into a support, and that waits exactly at 40-week moving average. Now, of course, that is that red line, is the 40-week moving average, and that is sitting at 21 Rand 31. Now, it sounds a little bit crazy. It's 15 Rand 96 now. Why would I like to wait for 21.31? I've seen during the years, and I always implement that. If you've got a stock that's struggling, and there's also fundamental issues, and the share just goes down, and then this announcement and that announcement actually makes you negative about the stock. I say to myself, okay, instead of going in and buy the stock, I will just wait patiently for the 40-week moving average to turn into a proper support, not like there, where it just turned into a support and then it turned down again. I want it to turn into a support. First of all, I would like this resistance to turn into a support, then the 40-week moving average. And I think by the time that we get to this level, at 21 Rand 31 level of the 40-week moving average will be our clue. So, John, I think it's early days. If you've got the stock, hold on. I think it's too late to take your knock now and say, listen, I'm throwing in the handle, the towel. But what I think here is we'll probably see a rights issue in time to come. Because if I heard about the fundamentals, it sounds like they're looking for some money and they're looking for some rescue. That will probably come in the form of a rights issue. And so if you've got the share, pay yourself, maybe you need to put in some cash here to maybe, let's call, to save the company so that they can have a turnaround strategy. Or on the other hand, if you haven't got the stock, sit on your hands and wait for this 21 Rand 31 level before we get ever. Well, let's have a look at the Rand dollar. And Hannes asked about the Rand dollar. And he said, listen, I would like to know what is going on here. So let's have a look here. Rand dollar, Hannes, if I look at the chart here, and this is a weekly chart again, and there's something interesting here. I just want to show there. There you are. This symmetrical triangle is brewing now for quite a while. It sometimes just bounces above that, give us an idea that it can go higher, but then it moves back again into the symmetrical triangle, and I'm watching this symmetrical triangle. Now, if we look at that, remember always a symmetrical triangle is always a formation that keeps investors guessing. So, a symmetrical triangle, while you're in that symmetrical triangle, you need to wait patiently to see if this index or the share, or in this case the Rand dollar, breaks to the upside or breaks to the downside. For me personally, it looks like that we want to break to the upside. And the reason why I'm saying that is every time there's your 40-week moving average, again, I'm applying the 40-week moving average here. Every time that the rand gets close to this 40-week moving average, it's not far from there that the rand will weaken again. So the peak level here is the top of this is 15 rand 41 cents. I think if the rand breaks above 15.41, we will look negative on the rand. We will definitely change our view. And let's just have a look where the rand can go if it breaks above that. I just want to use that. And I just want to extend it. Then the rand can easily go to, can you believe it, 16 rand 63. Now, a few weeks ago, nobody was talking about it. I actually had a chart, and I can maybe still show you here. I've got a target of close to 20 rand in time to come. Now, it doesn't mean it's today or tomorrow, but it will probably go there because there's a massive inverse head and shoulder. Now, it can go to 1660 if it breaks above this 15, let's call it 1548 level. But if it goes down, I hope for that because South Africa's got so much bad news. We don't want more bad news. First of all, we need to break below 14 rand 36. It sounds almost, you can say, insane to think that we can ever go back below 14.36. But we've seen with the rand can prove you wrong. So let's see. If it breaks below 14.36 and this triangle breaks to the downside below 14 rand 17 cents, it can maybe go as low as, can you believe that, 12 rand and 96 cents. Well, close to that 13 rand level. So, honestly, if I look at it, if you want to take money overseas, I always use this simple stochastic. It sounds stupid. When the stochastic is low on the weekly chart, that's time to take money out. If you want to take money out, if the stochastic is high, above the, let's call it the 80 zone, you just sit on your weight and on your hands, and you just wait for a tiny pullback. So, and that's the big mistake that everybody always makes. I'd like to take the rand out and change it into dollar when the stochastic tells you not to do that. And remember, stochastic always helps you with your emotions. When it is so high, in the case of the rand, everybody thinks that the rand is going to weaken from there. It warns you to be calm and wait for a pullback exactly on the opposite side. When everybody is so optimistic and say, listen, the rand is going to go to 12 rand, it's time for you sit on your hands and say, listen, that's maybe the time not to think like that and to go the other way. Because stochastic helps you guide your emotions apart from showing you that a share or an index or a rand dollar is maybe overbought or oversold. Well, let's look at Martin's request. Martin is a buyer of EOH. He likes EOH. He believes that the company is going to turn around, and let's have a look. And first of all, he is a long-term investor. I know he's keen on buying the stock for the long term. But Martin, unfortunately, this is almost the exact copy of a Brait story. I'm not that excited about the company. Well, let's have a look here. There was the high. Can you believe that? 170 rand for EOH, and that was in 2016. Now we're sitting at 11 rand 90 cents. What I don't like is every time, and there's again, I use the 40-week moving average. Every time that the share gets close to this 40-week moving average, it moves lower. There you are. It hit that, it comes back. It gets close to that, it loses momentum. There it almost turned that 40-week moving average into a support. What happens? And it loses momentum again from there. I'm going to apply the same rule as with Brait. I'm going to say, there you are. There's the resistance line that keeps everybody nervous. And there you've got a line that tells you, look, we can clearly see there's the falling channel. Every time that it gets above it, it goes down, hits it, and there you are. Well, it can actually go to zero because if you look at this extension, it can go lower and lower and lower. So Martin, for me, if I look at this weekly chart, and remember this is a weekly chart, I will say to myself, the 2 is on the 40-week moving average and with this resistance line. And just a point, if you look at charts, try to find maybe 2 or 3 pointers that can make you positive or negative on the chart. In this case, you've got a 40-week moving average with a resistance, and you've got a resistance line in a falling channel. And that is always positive, because then you say to yourself, listen, I've got 2 ticks that I can look at. I can say it must get above 19.69. That's my 40-week moving average. And if it turns in 19.69 into support, yes, at least I looked at 2 things. I can apply my mind to that. If you've only got one thing, sometimes as a trader you look at that and maybe make a quick decision. But if you are a medium to a long-term investor, try to find 2. I actually like to find 3 things. On the other hand, don't look for 10 things, because you'll rarely find that. So look for 2 things at least if you can, or maybe 3, and then make your decision. No, Martin, if it breaks above 19.69, my stop loss will be, in this case at the moment, it's quite low, R9.48. So Martin, at the moment, it doesn't look that good. Well, all the best next time, and we will chat again.